Hey guys, this is Ryan from El Topo Loco, and we have two other members of El Topo Loco. We have Sam and we have Hassan here, and we just had the 1K in New Jersey this past weekend, and both of these players got top eight, both with Launch, and just like Launch having multiple personalities, we have been seeing multiple deck profiles with Launch, all very different from each other, and Launch is a very versatile leader, just draws a lot, and because of that, you're able to do a lot of strategies that other decks maybe can't do as well, or maybe Launch just does it better. So first, we're going to start with Sam's profile. Sam, how you doing today? All right, so here we got your Launch profile, and tell us how the deck runs.
Yeah, so I played the Invoker version. It's been popping up a little bit already, but the basic premise of this deck is that you use the incremental advantage you get from launch, just doing so much in the combo step and drawing so many cards to over time play really defensive and over time set up to burn your opponent with catastrophic blow on turn 5.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
So
about it.
going back just a few months ago, I was never anti Invoker until I played Sam in an online tournament, and Sam made me hate this one card so much. It's like the only card I actually want banned. But Sam is like, hey, it's a good card because it's like, hey, if you're gonna win, why not play it? So catastrophic blow right here. Tell us what it does and tell us how it actually performs and helps you like seal the deck or seal the game every single time.
All right. So if you have a red blue Goku or no battle cards, you can play this card and it deals the damage to your opponent just uninteractable. It's an activate main extra card.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's red blue, it would be 1 mana if you have an invoker. So the way that you're going to get this card to go off is on turn 5 you can play a rival seeker. Turn 5 or later, grab back 2 catastrophic blows from your warp, and then play the 6-drop Goku, the energy explosion. That card will then give you the 3 mana back. It'll place the 3 mana you spent in the drop, and then charge 3 cards from your drop. And then you'll have enough mana to play however many catastrophic blows you need to deal that many damage plus 1 by its own effect. So just with 4 catastrophic blows in that card, that's already 5 damage. Most decks in the format are taking their own life a lot of the time, not to mention you're attacking throughout the game. So it just gives you a pretty much guaranteed way to close out the game on 5 if it hasn't ended already, which usually it will not because this is a very defensive deck.
So basically, like as soon as they get to five, they're on a clock, like 5 life, I should say. You're on a clock. Once you get to 5 energy, unless they can interact with the 3 drop or the 6 drop Goku, typically it's probably going to be the 3 drop because there's a lot more counterplays that deal with lower cost cards. Very few are going to deal with the 6 drop, but they could either Trunks counterplay or maybe Cold Bloodlust. But for the most part, they're going to probably counterplay the 3 drop. But how'd you deal with the counterplays? Or was that an issue at all, or did you have strategies for that?
Yeah, so I paid a little bit of respect to counterplays in my main deck with the Sin Shenron Unison. Although I will say this was probably the worst card in my deck,
Mm-hmm.
just because you can't enter the combo step if they attack your Unison. So
Mm-hmm.
you give up a lot of what makes launch really good by playing a Unison. But the -2 ability does allow you to respect any of the battle card traps like Frieza and God Sealing Technique.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other card I played to respect the traps was Sensu Bean, because if they answer your Rival Seeker, you can just bean up a mana and play another Rival Seeker.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as they're at 4 or less, that would still be enough to win the game with Catastrophic Blow,
Yeah.
because
Um,
you'll have 3 mana for 3 of them.
so I've built this deck. As many people that have been watching the channel, I've been playing a lot of launch since the very beginning, and I played almost every single version. And this is the one version that I'm currently playing. Sam was telling me how good it is. I personally don't find it very fun, but Sam's philosophy is if you're winning, it's fun. But we have slightly different builds, but it's generally the core of it. It's almost identical. I personally tried Broly in the main and sided the Sin. Do you regret kind of switching those?
Uh, so I would not main deck either of them if I were to play this deck again.
Okay.
I would either like play more Sensu Beans or bring in the Kaioken over the Sin, something like that.
Okay.
Crown, I just think like didn't come up as much as I would have wanted it to. I didn't slide it in once, so I doubt I'd want to main it.
See, for me, my biggest matchup or biggest fear of matchup is Baby, and I feel like Sin and Broly both help kind of pick away those counter plays with Baby. Did you play any babies at all this weekend?
I did not. Frankly, I chalk that matchup up to a loss. I think it's okay for there to be a deck in the room that you're losing to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I only sided in 2 more cards for Baby, even in theory. So clearly, like I'm not really trying to win that matchup.
So I know you said it's an auto loss, but I have played this online against a few baby players, and I even played this at locals against our team captain Miguel, and we ended up tying because we went to time for game 3. But I almost won both of them. The only problem I had was with game 1, I had too few multicolors in my drop when I wanted to go in for the game, and so I was only able to do 4 damage instead of all 5 damage that I wanted to. And because that 1 turn difference, cost me the game. But turn 2, I was able to get it. The Broly's definitely helped out a lot, and just basically baiting out them using their energy or baiting out their counterplays and just having multiple of these Gokus, maybe doing it turn 6 or something like that. Um, so I wouldn't say it's an auto loss, but I definitely think it's an unfavorable matchup, in my opinion, at least.
Certainly, the matchup is not impossible to win, right? Like there are things you can do, but I think it is so unfavored that it's like if you need to side in 6 cards for a matchup, which ideally I would if I wanted to actually have a chance at beating Baby,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's just too much respect to be able to pay to a deck.
Fair
Where you
enough.
could just be good at beating the other decks in the room.
All right, so how do we do the setup? Other than you said, typically turn 3, turn 5, we're playing this Goku and doing the setup with the catastrophic blow, and then this Goku. But how do you get that set up?
All right, so there's a couple of things that you do. Obviously, launch draws a ton of cards, so we're going through our flippers every turn. As you draw catastrophic blows to your hand, you're able to discard them off of a card like Tobo or Violent Raise. Um, and then you also have the friendly rival Frieza combo, which when you combo with it, lets you send a red extra card from your deck to your drop. So that will also get a catastrophic blow there. It's really not hard to have 2 catastrophic blows in your drop to make a rival seeker live. As for the rest of the combo, you're just trying to keep catastrophic blows in your hand,
Mm-hmm.
because usually you're not going to be able to get all 4 back. The rest of the setup really comes through defense. So you playing like coolers and Hercule Boos to make sure that you survive long enough
Mm-hmm.
in order to get to 5.
Yeah, so
Really the biggest part of the deck.
a lot of people think of these boos and these coolers as very offensive pieces, especially the cooler. And they can be in certain situations, but typically you're using them mostly for defense and even bouncing the cooler back with this cooler to get multiple uses out of it. But this Frieza card, like you're the one that told me about this card, and this what really made me like think like this deck's actually pretty crazy. Like it's really easy to get this setup going. You're almost guaranteed to get 2 catastrophic blows in the drop very easily just from playing 2 of these in your combo, and plus your leader's comboing at least twice a turn, and then you're probably going to floodgate them afterwards. And then you, like you said before, you do have these coolers and boos just to make sure that those turns that they do try to push through those floodgates, um, you're making it a little bit more difficult for them. So pretty cool setup.
Yeah, for sure.
So okay, what were your matchups? How did they go? And any advice you would have about improving the deck or any changes you would want to make.
Yeah. So this tournament was only 3 rounds of Swiss. Round 1, I played against Mecha Frieza. That matchup is pretty favorable. I 2-0'd it. And then round 2, I played against Hassan and his red-blue launch deck. That matchup was a lot harder, but I did manage to win that one 2-0 also. And then round 3, I played against King Piccolo. I was not able to win that one. He main decks Broly Crown. That card's insane against this deck.
Hmm.
Then game 2, I just couldn't find my win condition, unfortunately. And then in top 8, I played against the fused Zamasu that topped. And that deck is a hard counter to mine. again, really not good at beating blue with this.
So why
Uh,
was it such a hard counter for you?
so the type of aggression that that deck puts on really is powerful against this deck because Violent Raise doesn't hit it. It's a dual attack leader, and then a Boony usually. Those are all 15k attackers.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have God Sealing available for your Topo.
Mm-hmm.
So there's really no way to floodgate that deck. And
Yeah.
then they still have God Sealing for your Rival Seeker if you do make it that far.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, their top end is better than yours. Like Turning the Tide is a blowout, and so is the 9 mana Goku Black.
Mm-hmm.
I lost each of those cards respectively in each game.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I actually max out on my topos in my version, but I could definitely see that being a problem because like yeah, they could God Sealing your topo, the negate still happens, but the floodgate doesn't. So if you don't have two more energy, then you can't replay the topo. So you might just they're gonna just push through for that turn unless you have some more energy to untap with Sensu Bean or Beerus. But ideally, you're saving those Sensu Beans for that burn turn. And
Yeah. The other problem was that we expected a lot of decks to be playing Broly Crown. So in any matchup that isn't blue, you'd run into a problem when you try to Topo because they could just summon their Crown and gain knowledge of where most of your deck is because this deck draws so many cards that most of your deck's in your hand.
mm-hmm.
Not to mention take out your Topo if you only have one. So really, it was not optimal in a lot of cases to be leaving 2 mana open for it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Another thing is you did mention turning the tides, and I did find that I don't want to lose my hand, so I actually started main decking one copy of it just in case for the turn one. Because a lot of times with baby, some games, or some matches, you only get one game and then maybe half of another game, so you need to make sure you win game one. So I actually started maining one copy and maybe siding a second copy. I got to look at my list again, just in case I do go to game two. What do you think about that? Good idea, bad idea?
I would not. I did consider it. Hassan and I did talk about it before the tournament, but again, I think it's really hard to respect a deck like Baby because its matchup is so favorable against you
Mm-hmm.
that like main decking cards that make your deck worse in every other matchup just didn't feel right.
My justification for it is the very least I can do is combo away that Jiren at any point. So in this deck, at least it's going to draw me a card. But unfortunately, because of that, I do have to make this a 51 card deck list instead of a 50 card deck list. So I could also see the
My deck is
downside to that.
52 cards anyway. So.
Yours is 52? Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Now, what kind of improvements or changes would you make?
Yeah. So again, I would definitely not play the Sim Shenron Unison again. Certainly not in my main deck. I Out of all the cards in my side, I wish I main decked Kaioken. I brought that in almost all of my matchups. The only one I didn't bring it in was against Hassan.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that card's very good. Uh, Outside of that, I think that my deck ran very well. Um, there's not too many changes you can make in the main. This deck is very, very tight, and I wouldn't want to play more cards. If I could, I'd play less as it is.
Fair enough. And how big were your hands most of those games?
Uh, Pretty much always double digits. Nobody asked me when it was less than 10 cards. I think it got as high as like 17 in some of my games.
Jeez, it's almost like you have a deck in your hand.
Sure.
And now I'm looking at your side. How did you like the new negate?
I did not cite it in, but it's really, really good in theory. It usually prevents 2 attacks.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And at the very
yeah.
worst, if it doesn't block for the second attack, you could always combo it and get a draw from it.
Sure, yeah. Although it's not like
Um,
I have a problem finding cards to combo with.
that's true. And then I do see you have a little bit of a mill package here. Is that like the
Yeah.
strategy, or
Oh,
is this more for clearing cards?
so those 2 cards, Rebirth of Justice and Full Power Frieza, were literally the best cards in my deck, main or side. The theory here, I talked about with Hassan also, and basically we expected in games 2 and 3 that our opponents would side in answers for Rival Seeker specifically.
Mm-hmm.
So cards like Omen of Awakening and King Piccolo and Super Kamehameha and Dark Broly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, those cards are very powerful. So my theory here was that on turn 5, instead of summoning Rival Seeker, I would play Rebirth of Justice.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if they don't counter in window 1, you can just play a Rival Seeker, and now they missed their window to answer it.
Okay.
And now you're going to win the game because Rival Seeker's on the board.
Mm-hmm.
And if they do use their counter, again, it's usually an answer to Rival Seeker. So now they've spent their answer, and you get to play full power Frieza, which in a lot of those matchups is just a win condition by itself, right? Like when I played against Hassan, I milled him out with it. I put it in against the King Piccolo matchup. And if I played against Dark Broly, that's the main deck where it's usually going to win the game like every time.
Nice.
It's just super, super hard to answer it.
Yeah. So for those that are not aware, when you have an effect that plays a card, you actually get two counter windows. The first counter window is before the card is played, and the second counter window is after it's played. If you use it on the second counter window, you get any effects that say when you play this card. But basically, if they do it on the first window, they have to do it before you show them what target you're going to play. So they have to respond blindly most of the time. Now, the thing is, I think the only card that would really work on your Rival Seeker on window 2 would probably be Bloodlust, right?
Yeah, and I just don't slide that in against Yellow. You don't need anything against Mecha Frieza. That deck is such an easy matchup for this.
Makes sense. All right, cool. Anything else you want to add?
No, I think that's about it. Just shout outs to everyone who gave me cards. I own like 0 of this deck. Thank you
Nice.
guys.
I actually ordered most of this deck and now might not even play it. I'm debating about this one or King Piccolo for Saturday, so we'll see what happens. All right. And we also have Hassan here, who also played in the 1K and also got top 8 with launch. And we're pulling up his deck profile right now. How's it going, Hassan?
It's good. It's good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. So we see a very different version. Well, I shouldn't say very different. We do see red and blue, but we don't see any of the catastrophic blow invoker package in here. And it actually looks like it's a little bit more based on your unison if I'm just looking at it quickly. Tell us the strategy and what was your idea when you were building this deck?
Yeah. So originally I was playing the Invoker stuff, and I didn't want to take it just because I was expecting a lot of people to have answers for and be expecting the Invoker package. So I didn't really want to take it and have people answer my Rival Seekers after working so hard to get to turn 5.
Mm-hmm.
And I really wanted to play this Piccolo unison. The cards that go like complemented are like really strong. Like Omen's really good. That Piccolo that comes out for free, it's a double strike 20k. That's really good. Yamcha's all right, but he's still just a free body. You just summon him for 15, and he gets under Violent Rays.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, I really wanted to play that package as well. So that was kind of my idea. I cut that out, the Invoker stuff, to play this stuff.
All right. So how did it do?
Yeah, it was a little underwhelming. So you can see I have like the testing the oppositions and the SSD Vegeta,
Yes.
the steadfast ally. So yeah, he's a blocker. So he comes out when one of your red blue multicolor battle cards is removed from the battle area by a skill.
Mm-hmm.
So it's either your opponent's skill or your skill. And the idea was I can play a unison, and then in order to counter the issue of not being able to have a battle step when my opponent swings into my unison, is I have a blocker. So the blocker I only need to block one time, so I can at least combo off a flipper, get a +1. And it was okay, but that situation didn't really happen that much.
So he basically gets played when you bounce back a multicolor card, and there's actually a lot of cool interactions that you can do in here. Do you want to tell us some of them?
Yeah, sure. Like the coolest one is probably the fact that the Hercule Boo bouncing back to Vegeta just triggers on the Vegeta itself to resummon.
I think you need to have 2 in hand for that to fully work, to be honest. Is that true? I'm just looking at it really quick.
I thought it didn't. That's not good. That only came up one time, but I thought it only needed its own to trigger off itself.
I'll have to look into that in more detail. I'm pretty sure you might need two, but on a quick glance, I'm not going to look into it too much right now. So maybe it works if you have one, maybe it doesn't work, but don't quote me on that. So that's one interaction. What else?
And then the other one is the cooler, combo attack cooler with the tyrannical assault cooler.
Okay.
So so a lot of times the way it'll go is you swing with tyrannical assault, try to bait out like a violent rage or something. If that happens, it's whatever. You swing with leader, and then you summon the combo attack cooler, bouncing back the tyrannical assault, and then you summon the SSB Vegeta. So you just got yourself a free 25k blocker.
So you get a swing with your cooler first, 20 double strike, and anything else you combo with the leader and everything. Then you do some other attack, maybe the leader attack, play this guy for free. This goes back to hand, and then you get another 25. I think he's 25k, right?
Yeah, he's 25.
So you either get another 25k attacker or you get a blocker out of it. And then you also get a 25k essentially out of this cooler because he gets the combo with a multicolor from the drop. And maybe you could even play the cooler from your hand one more time. So that's actually a lot of stuff for very little energy.
Yeah. So like that's like the craziest like interaction. Like if you get like all of those swings, it's like 4 swings,
Yeah.
For like 2 mana.
It's not bad at all. And then
so like you can do that in Invoker deck. Without if you play the SSD. So that's kind of where the idea came from. When I was playing the Invoker deck, I was like, man, I can just turn these cards sideways and start winning.
So you're basically just trying to get as much value out of as little energy as possible with this deck, while drawing a ton.
Yeah, so you can see, I play, like you just draw so much. I play all 12 flippers. I'm a believer that you play all 12. And because when you don't see them, you can't play your deck.
No, you're right. How many cards is the deck?
55.
55. So I could actually see, like, I've played anywhere between 50 and 55, and I think I've played 55 even with 10 flippers, and it was all right. But the games that you don't see the flippers, especially in the early game, it's a totally different match. Like, you can't even play your deck, and it feels terrible. And then you're just taking life, hoping to get a flipper, and it does not feel good. So, did you have any issues finding flippers with 12 of them?
I did. Game 3 against King Piccolo in top 8. I couldn't find a flipper till I found one flipper in my opening hand. I used it. It was a Balmer, so I summoned it because I was like, okay, I only have one flipper. I'm gonna try to take it as deep as I can.
Mm-hmm.
So I summoned it, drew a card, and then drew 2 more off the flipper, and I didn't find any more. And maybe until turn 4 or so. And I was just taking as much I was just swinging. And I was just like, all right, I'm gonna take a life. Hopefully I draw into a flipper from life.
Yeah.
Because no luck.
Man, that's just RNG for you. I mean, it sounds like you did everything fine to dig as much as you could with what little you had. But I mean, what can you do in those cases?
Yeah, it is what it is, right?
Yeah, exactly. At least it's best of 3, so you had some time to possibly come back in the games 2 and 3. It didn't work out so well. But those, I've played launch a whole lot, again, many different versions, and I could count on one hand how many times I did not see the flippers. But again, those few matches that it does happen, it feels terrible, and it's like, what's the point of playing this deck if it's not doing what it's supposed to do? But most of the time, it seems to work out well.
Yeah.
All right.
Agreed.
I do see this King Piccolo here, which works with the Unison, and you talked about it before. He's basically a free play 20k double strike. Can't use blockers, so I mean something against maybe Bulma or something like that. That's pretty relevant. And then at the end of the turn, this gets sent to the warp. Now this has a really cool interaction. I'm not sure if you use this interaction with the Hercule Blue, but basically you can swing with double strike, and it's kind of like an overwhelm where it gets warped at the end of the turn. But if you play the Hercule Blue before the end of the turn, you can actually bounce this card back to your hand before it gets warped. Did that come up at all?
Not really. To be honest, I think I summoned that card one time. I would hold that card a lot of times just to push for game.
Okay.
But the way it came down is I had already had so much like, I just had so much advantage throughout the turns
Mm-hmm.
that I didn't need that extra swing, that extra double strike swing. Yeah, but that I didn't know that. That's actually pretty good to know.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty nice combo because then it's like almost not an infinite loop because it really depends on how many Hercule Boos you have. But you could keep on repeating it. So even with two of them, you could do it for multiple turns in a row as long as, of course, you have 3 markers or more on that unison. So
Yeah.
Sam did bring up before having a unison in his launch deck kind of felt bad at times because it gave them a chance to swing at the unison and prevented you from drawing cards, which of course launch wants to draw as much. Now you do have a blocker in here, which could help prevent that. Did you have issues with them swinging only at your unison, or was that beneficial because there was less pressure on your leader?
Yeah. So that I'll probably end up cutting the unison package because of that issue. Yeah, a lot of times like they would just swing right into my unison, even if I did have so the issue is like in the early round, the early attacks, right, like turn one, you're actually going to end up comboing out of the leader swing. So you're going to go, they'll swing for 10, and then you'll combo the flipper, you'll flip to the other side, you'll combo to 15. So you essentially those early rounds, those early turns, you're not going to get down to 5 life.
Mm-hmm.
So then if I play, I'm actually not able to play the unison on turn 2 to have the testing the opposition ready to be able to negate and summon a blocker.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
So it ends up feeling really bad. The testing the opposition was the card I didn't like. I realized I didn't like it quite early into the tournament. I was like, man, I don't really like this card. I'm just charging it a lot of times.
Yeah, this is one of the few generic good red cards out of this next set, and this was like one of the first events that you could probably use this. So you were just testing it out with the new set, and it seems good in theory, but I could see the issue that you just brought up, especially since launch. One of her benefits is that you can play with a high life total, and I was with Sam's build, with his Invoker build, I did try Hercule for a little bit, and I saw some pros and cons to both, but launch seemed to be a little bit better, and one of the main things is that launch can play the high life game.
Yeah, that's like what's really nice. Yeah, you end up you play so high life that you just don't ever really even getting down to 5 is hard.
Yeah, for real. All right, so tell us your matchups and how do they go?
What were my matchups? Round 1 was Android 16, red green Android 16. The deck's interesting. The deck has some issues though. It costs a lot of mana to play your cards, so it's like you can't really play a deck like that right now
Mm-hmm.
when everyone's playing cards for free.
Yep.
Round 2 was Sam. Sam 2-0'd me. Round 3 was it was a blue Janenba deck. So he's playing like that Janenba crit stuff. I don't remember his leader was the leader that on the awakened side you swing and you draw one and untap 2.
Okay.
So yeah, that deck's kind of crazy actually, to be honest. The deck can swing like a lot of times, like turn 3-4, it just swings down. That's swinging. A lot of the swing under Violent Rays, but also like about 50% of their swing under Violent Rays.
Mm-hmm.
But so Violent Rays does hurt it a little bit. Violent Rays, and then you can kind of combo out of the other one, the little swing.
Yeah.
And then top 8 was against King Piccolo. That one was okay. Game, a lot of like game 2, I think, came down to I missed a couple of triggers. It was my first time playing that into the Piccolo Unison, so I actually missed the triggers on him like twice.
Oh, really?
So it was a bummer. The auto to pop stuff, it's actually quite, because he played a Yamcha and I could have just popped it, right after he played it. But it's all right. But even then, he gets to, play his Unison, and then he can play his 15k guys and then swing right into my Unison. It's really tough then, especially since, I'm not at 5, I can't test the opposition, or I didn't get to play a Vegeta. So you got some incremental advantage there, which kind of snowballed him.
Yeah, Piccolo's pretty tough. I do find this Unison is actually pretty decent against Piccolo because, like you said, it's like all their guys are almost all their guys are 15k or less. So the more they counter, the more you're popping their field. But that is something that you have to remember. And this is not once per turn for his auto popping. So you just have to remember to trigger that or announce that trigger. Looking at a few other things, how did this Bardock work?
That Bardock is so good. You just you swing like a bunch of times. You do the whole combo, tyrannical blow, the combo attack cooler, and then you swing, and then you swing again with the second cooler, and then you're like, okay, they think you exhausted all your swings. So
Mm-hmm.
it seems like this deck you can tap out. You have the beer super combo and
Yeah.
Senzu Beans, so you're okay with tapping out. And they're like, okay, he's tapped down, then you just overrun this Bardock and you swing 2 more times. It's insane. It's so good.
Yeah, I definitely do that with King Piccolo a lot. Like swing it, like you're basically going pretty wide or just swinging a lot of attacks, and then at the very end you either play one of these two. And I know you said you saved this Piccolo a lot for those last turns, but or for those like last swings. Do you think that your sources are exhausted? But this pick or this Goku, not Goku. This is a Bardock. They look the same basically. This guy's got a scar though, so either one of these two is kind of like a surprise. They're like, hey, they can't do anything else. I'm going to live. And then you play one of these guys, and it's like, no, you're going to die now. Especially on top of the Bardock, if you have energy for the double strike Champa, you got 2 swings to try to get that in. Even if they negate the first swing, the second swing is almost likely going to go through. So minimum 35k double strike. And then, of course, if you draw any more from launch, you could potentially make it even stronger.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's also kind of why the Piccolo was in that. Like, I was like okay with the Piccolo because I had this Bardock. So it's like, I can just summon the Bardock and just kind of get that last push in. The Piccolo can help,
Mm-hmm.
but if a lot of times just having the Bardock itself was enough to just push through the damage.
Yeah, I could see that. So, looking at your side deck, any choices that you sided in a lot?
The so I actually really like the Broly Crown. So our to say it, like my deck is a bit different than Sam's in the sense that Broly Crown also serves another purpose in that it's another attacker,
Mm-hmm.
right? So like since I want to play under the combo, if I only have like 2 swings and my opponent negates both of them, I can summon the Broly Crown, 1 mana if they have 2 energy open. Like you'll do it first, right? Like you'll see their hand. If they have whatever, you'll swing with the other 2 guys, and if they don't go through, you'll just swing with the Broly Crown. So that way you can combo some stuff and summon out the a cooler, rival the cooler or the Hercule if you want to.
Yeah. So, like, that's definitely the problem with launch. If they negate too much, you're not getting your draw power, at least offensively. Defensively, you can still do it. But yeah, that Broly just, even if you're not trying to push through damage, just getting that extra swing, now you're getting all these free plays. That's actually pretty cool that you could do that. Anything else from the side that you liked?
The Omen. I actually really liked Omen. Omen was good because like the only 2 cards really that hurt the deck. Violent Race is like okay. Topo is probably the one that hurts the most.
Yeah.
So you have Omen for Topo. They just spent 2 mana. You're okay with critting the life. You're playing at such a high life total, so you're like, okay, fine, I'll crit the life, stop your Topo. They went, they lost the Topo and a card.
Mm-hmm.
You lost the card and the life, but net advantage is still +1.
Yeah.
And you get to continue your turn.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. And then I cited some stuff for the baby matchup. The 2 Dirans and the 2 Android 17. So that's actually, the idea is that that matchup's just going to go long.
Mm-hmm.
If they try to turn the tide me, I'll Diran, and then I'll just play turning the tide back on them on turn 7 if they don't play Android 17.
Interesting. So like basically you're giving them like a clock, and like, well, they probably don't even know about this because you had to side it in. So it's like a nice sneaky way to kind of like say, hey, I got mine out before yours. And if they happen to beat you, if they happen to either draw it first or get to that turn 7 first, you have that answer. So either way, you're kind of feeling pretty good about going into that late game.
Exactly, yeah.
All right, cool. Any changes you would make?
Yeah, I'd probably cut out the Unison package. So yeah, the Unison package will probably come out. I don't think you really don't need the Bardock fully unleashed, but I still think it's pretty decent. You can cut that if you want to. And then yeah, there's I wouldn't play the Testing Opposition. I think that card's good in other decks. Maybe not launch though.
Yeah. Okay. And any things that you would add instead of those?
There's some secret spice being brewed up. I'll
Okay.
say maybe the fourth sensu bean. And some blue cards, because I don't want to combo off so if I go combo flipper, my only other blue card to combo off is the combo attack cooler.
Yeah.
That's it's okay, but I want to play that combo attack cooler more than likely. He's such a good card. 25 swing, bounce back my cooler, and summon the cooler again.
Exactly.
It's a lot of value. So I don't necessarily want to combo that card off. So it'd be nice to have some other blue cards to combo off that I don't really care about, so I can just summon him.
Yeah, I agree.
So I can summon the cooler. Yeah.
Yeah, in my Invoker launch deck, I definitely have less 10Ks than Sam has, just because I do want to have some of these 5Ks. And I do agree, sometimes comboing one or two of these, it's necessary to get your arrival off without wasting energy or wasting your super combos. But definitely having a few more 5K blue good combo cards is definitely nice. It gives you a little bit more options without having to waste your energy and maybe using that energy for something else. So I would definitely agree with that. All right, cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Anything else you want to say, Hassan?
No, I think that's about it.
All right, cool. Thank you both for showing us your deck profiles, and congrats on getting top 8 in this event. Do you guys have any last minute shout outs or any last minute suggestions?
Oh yeah, shout out to the whole team. Shout out to CG for hosting the tournament. Shout out to everyone that came. This is fun. Hopefully, the next tournament. Hopefully, there's a bigger turnout, and I'm hoping for more rounds. Because we had a lot of really good players that came up. So I'm really hoping that a lot more people come next time.
Yeah, hopefully. And Sam, do you have anything?
I just reiterate what Hassan said fully. Of course, huge shout out to our whole team, and especially to him for all the work that he put into my deck also. And shout out to CGU, shout out to everyone who came. It was really great getting to see everyone haven't really considered, but yeah.
Yeah. And I would definitely want to throw a shout out to our team captain, Miguel. He got top 4 in this event with Baby. And we even had, what was yesterday with the world tournament thing that Brandon was in? What was that?
The world tournament qualifier.
Yeah, the world tournament qualifier. He got first place with King Piccolo, so shout out to him as well. Did anybody else on our team do well recently?
There haven't really been other events, but we'll have those deck profiles up soon, hopefully.
All right, cool. Well, thanks for stopping by to watch the video. If you guys have any questions or any comments, definitely write down below, and we'll get back to you guys. Until next time, stay loco. Have a good one, everybody.